Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Friday, so it's Return to Collecting Top 50 of all time. This week we are getting down into the greatest of the great. We are at number 4. This guy was the greatest player of his generation, one of the greatest players of all time, one of the greatest hitters of all time, one of the smartest ball players of all time when it came to truly understanding his opponents and knowing what to do in pretty much any situation on the ball field. So without further ado, let's jump into number 4. All right, guys, so number 4 is Ty Cobb. Here's his T206 red background portrait card. This one's an SGC3. Picked this up at the National last year. Absolutely love the card. It's a really good looking card. The condition's nice. I love how the background is really clean. It's not snowy at all. It does have this little crease right here. But other than that, it's a pretty good looking card. It does have this little mark on the back as well. But it's a super clean 3. Super happy with this card. Really happy to have it in the collection. Tyrus Raymond Cobb was born on December 18th, 1886 in Narrows, Georgia. He was the eldest of 3 children. His father, a state senator, was not supportive of Cobb's desire to play baseball for a living. Cobb played sandlot baseball growing up and made the minor leagues in his teens. At the age of 18, he was sold to the Detroit Tigers, where he would go on to play for the next 22 seasons. Cobb fundamentally changed the game of baseball. He used his speed and mental wit to create runs like no one before him. He would steal second, third, and home with ease. He could score from second on the sacrifice bunt. He hit for average like no other player. Though he despised power hitters, he did lead the league in home runs once, all inside the park. So he's the only player in history to lead the league in home runs without hitting a single ball over the fence. To prove a point, Cobb once announced that he would only hit for power in the next 2 games. He went 6 for 6 in the first game, hitting 3 home runs with 7 RBIs, 4 runs scored, and 16 total bases. To prove his point further, in the next game, he went 3 for 4 with 2 more home runs. His reputation for being, well, an asshole was likely embellished a bit by Al Stump, his biographer. He was a mean guy, but not likely as mean as his reputation would imply. Regardless, he was one of the greatest baseball players of all time. His awards include winning the MVP, the Triple Crown, and 12 batting titles. He led the league in runs 5 times, hits 8 times, doubles 3 times, triples 4 times, home runs once, RBIs 4 times, stolen bases 6 times, batting average 12 times, including 9 consecutive seasons, as well as not winning the batting title one season where he hit over 400. He did hit over 400 3 times. Interesting fact, he hit over 320 for 22 consecutive seasons, so that'll never be matched again. He led the league in on-base percentage 7 times, slugging percentage 8 times, OPS 10 times, OPS plus 12 times, and total bases 6 times. His 1911 MVP season, he led the league in every major category other than home runs. He had 148 runs scored, 248 hits, 47 doubles, 24 triples, 127 RBIs, 83 stolen bases, and a .419 batting average. So easily top 2 or 3 greatest seasons in the history of baseball. For his career, he had 3,034 games played, 6th all time, 13,103 plate appearances, 5th all time, 11,440 at bats, 5th all time, 2,245 runs scored, 2nd all time, 4,189 hits, 2nd all time, 724 doubles, 4th all time, 295 triples, 2nd all time to his teammate and rival Sam Crawford, 117 home runs, 1,944 RBIs, 9th all time, 897 stolen bases, 4th all time, a .366 batting average, 1st all time in Major League Baseball with a required minimum of 3,000 plate appearances, a .944 OPS, a .168 OPS plus, putting him 10th all time in MLB, and 5,054 total bases, 6th all time. He was one of the very few players that was top 10 in every category that he felt was relevant. One of his most proud accomplishments was his record of 54 times safely stealing home, as well as holding the record for the most times stealing home in a season with 8. Cobb retired a very wealthy man. He saved his money as a player, brought in additional income from endorsements, and invested very wisely, becoming one of the largest shareholders in his local companies, both Coca-Cola down in Atlanta and General Motors up in Detroit. As such, he focused his retirement on hunting, fishing, polo, and golfing. He played his local course, Augusta National, with two of his closest friends, golfing legend Bobby Jones and his business partner, Robert Woodruff, the president of Coca-Cola. Cobb was elected to the Hall of Fame in the inaugural class in 1936. He had the highest vote percentage of anyone from the class, which included Ruth, Wagner, Mathewson, and Johnson. His 98.2% vote percentage was also the highest for the next 56 years until Tom Seaver received 98.8% in 1992. Cobb died on July 17, 1961, after going into a diabetic coma. Cobb's perceived racial intolerance was somewhat embellished by his biographers. Cobb was a supporter of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier, saying, "Certainly it's okay for them to play. I see no reason in the world why we shouldn't compete against colored athletes as long as they conduct themselves with politeness and gentility. Let me say also that no white man has the right to be less of a gentleman than a colored man. In my book, that goes not only for baseball, but in all walks of life." In a 1952 interview in the Sporting News, he said, "The Negro should be accepted, and not grudgingly, but wholeheartedly." Some quotes by Ty Cobb. "Baseball was 100% of my life. Every great batter works on the theory that the pitcher is more afraid of him than he is of the pitcher. I have observed that baseball is not unlike a war. When you come right down to it, we batters, we are the heavy artillery. The base paths belong to me, the runner. The rules gave me the right. I always went into the bag at full speed, feet first. If the baseman stood where he had no business to be and got hurt, that was his fault. I could never stand losing. Second place didn't interest me. I had a fire in my belly. To get along with me, don't increase my tension. And lastly, when I began playing the game, baseball was about as gentlemanly as a kick in the crotch." So we'll close out with some quotes about Ty Cobb. "Ty Cobb is a prick, but he sure can hit. God almighty, that man could hit. Babe Ruth." Ty Cobb lived off the field as though he wished to live forever. He lived on the field as though it was his last day. Branch Rickey. "Every time I hear about this guy, I wonder how he was possible." Joe DiMaggio, who, by the way, Cobb helped negotiate his first Yankees contract. "The greatness of Ty Cobb is something that had to be seen, and to see him was to remember him forever." George Sisler. "Few names have left a firmer imprint on the stages of the history of American times than that of Ty Cobb. For a quarter of a century, his aggressive exploits on the diamond, while inviting opposition as well as acclaim, brought high drama. This great athlete seems to have understood from early in his professional career that competition of baseball, just as war, defensive strategy has never produced ultimate victory." General Douglas MacArthur. "I never saw anyone like Ty Cobb. No one close to him. He was the greatest all-time ball player. The guy was superhuman, amazing." Casey Stengel. "Let him sleep if he will. If you get him riled up, he'll annihilate us." Connie Mack. "He didn't out-hit and he didn't outrun them. He out-thought them." Teammate, rival, and friend Sam Crawford. All right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed number 4, Mr. Tyrus Raymond Cobb, one of the greatest players of all time. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the ranking, so please leave your thoughts in the comments. If you liked the video and you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. If you are subscribed, I appreciate your subscription. All right, guys, I'll talk to you guys later.